The night sky of planet Zalon burned with red and purple fire as a small ship came crashing down. The people of the alien city gathered in the great arena to watch the strange sight. They had seen many battles. They had seen many slaves die. But they had never seen a human ship fall from the stars. The Queen of Xylon sat high on her throne, her crown shining like sharp blades. Her people feared her, for she was powerful, ruthless, and her word was law. Beside her throne rested the deadliest creature in the galaxy, a dragon born of fire and steel. Its scales were like black metal. Its eyes glowed like burning suns, and its roar shook the walls of the arena. No one had ever dared to face this dragon, because no one who tried had ever lived from the wreck of the ship. Smoke rose into the night. Out of the broken metal walked a human, covered in dust and oil. He was not a soldier, not a warrior, not a hero. He was a mechanic. His name was Ethan. In his hands he carried no weapon, only a small toolkit tied to his belt. The crowd laughed when they saw him, their voices echoing through the arena like cruel music. A human. They shouted, "Weak, fragile, helpless. How can such a creature survive here?" They mocked. The queen smiled coldly, her eyes full of pride. She wanted to make a show, a reminder of her power. She raised her hand and spoke, her voice echoing, "Let my dragon end this human's life." The ground shook as the beast moved, its claws scraping against the stone floor. The dragon lifted its head, smoke curling from its mouth. The crowd cheered, expecting blood. Ethan stood still, his heart pounding. He had no armor, no shield, nothing but his hands and his tools. He knew he could not fight. He knew he could not run. But as the dragon's massive body came closer, Ethan's eyes widened. He noticed something others could not see. Between the dragon's scales, hidden under layers of armor, were strange metal lines, wires, and gears. They were not natural. They were machines. His mechanic's mind woke at once. This creature, he whispered to himself, is not only alive, it is built. The dragon roared, the sound shaking the ground like thunder. It lowered its head and came near, its burning breath heating the air. The queen leaned forward, waiting to see the human crushed. But then something happened that no one expected. Ethan lifted his hand, not to fight, but to calm. "Stop," he said softly, his voice steady, though his body trembled. The dragon froze. The crowd went silent. The beast stared at Ethan, its glowing eyes narrowing as if listening. Then, slowly, it lowered its head until its snout almost touched the human's hand. Gasps filled the arena. No one could believe what they saw. The queen rose from her throne, her face pale with shock. Her dragon, her strongest weapon, her symbol of power, was obeying a human Ethan himself did not understand. He had spoken without thinking, a simple word, but the dragon had obeyed. The mechanic stepped forward, his hand brushing against the cold metal of the beast's scales. He felt the hum of hidden machines beneath its skin. He understood, at least in part, that this creature was not fully alive. It was controlled by old technology that felt strangely familiar to him. The queen shouted with anger, her voice echoing like thunder. "This is a trick," she cried. "No human can control my dragon." She gave the beast another command, her voice sharp and commanding. But the dragon did not move. It only growled, turning its head slightly, its eyes still locked on Ethan. The people of Zalon whispered among themselves, fear growing in their voices. If the queen's dragon would not obey her, then who truly held the power? Ethan swallowed hard, his mind racing. He had no plan, no weapon, no army. Yet somehow, the deadliest dragon in the galaxy stood beside him. He felt both fear and wonder. He did not know why the dragon listened to him. But he knew one thing for certain. This moment had changed everything. The queen had wanted a show of power, but instead she had revealed her greatest weakness. The human mechanic, the man who came with nothing, now stood in the center of the arena with the strongest ally imaginable. The night air grew heavy with silence. The queen's eyes burned with rage. But behind her fury was fear. Ethan looked at the dragon, then at the crowd, and for the first time he realized this was not only about survival. This was the beginning of something greater, and though he did not yet understand it, destiny had chosen him. The arrival of the human mechanic had shaken the throne of the alien queen, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The arena was filled with silence. Thousands of alien eyes stared down at the human who stood calmly beside the dragon. The queen's lips trembled with rage, her hands tightening on the arms of her throne. No one in her empire had ever disobeyed her command, but her dragon, her deadliest weapon, now knelt before a weak human mechanic. Ethan did not move at first. His mind was racing faster than the stars above the alien sky. Why had the dragon listened to him? A stranger, a nobody, a man who only fixed machines. The crowd began to whisper, their voices growing louder with fear and confusion. "Why does the beast bow?" one alien asked. "Is the human a sorcerer?" Another cried. The queen silenced them with a wave of her hand, her golden crown shining under the torchlight. She rose from her throne, her voice sharp as blades. "Dragon, rise and burn this human," she commanded. The beast let out a low growl, smoke rising from its nostrils, but it did not move. Its eyes glowed brighter. Turning away from the queen and locking again on Ethan, the mechanic could feel the weight of its gaze. It was not the look of a mindless beast. It was the look of something that recognized him. Ethan lifted his hand slowly, his heart beating. Like thunder in his chest, he remembered the strange circuits he had seen under the dragon's scales. They were not random. They were systems, technology, machinery he could understand. His voice trembled. But he forced himself to speak. "Sit," he said, his tone steady, like he was giving a simple order to a machine in his workshop. The crowd gasped. The dragon lowered itself onto the stone floor, folding its wings like a trained hound. The arena erupted in shouts of disbelief. Aliens clawed at the walls, some dropping their weapons in fear. The queen's face turned pale, her sharp voice breaking with fury. "Impossible," she screamed. "It only obeys me. It only answers to my blood." Yet the truth stood before them all. The dragon listened to the human, not the queen. Ethan did not fully understand his own power. He was no sorcerer, no warrior, no king. But he had spent his whole life repairing broken machines. To him, machines spoke a language, a hidden voice of gears, wires, and signals. And now, this dragon, part flesh, part machine, seemed to recognize that same language. It was as if it had been waiting for someone who could hear it. The queen tried. Again, her voice rising like a storm. "Kill him, destroy him, burn him to ash," she screamed. But the dragon only growled, smoke swirling in the air. Its chest glowed with fire. Yet it held its breath, refusing her command. Then it turned its head slowly toward Ethan, waiting for his words. The mechanic swallowed hard, every eye in the arena pressing down on him. He thought of running, but something inside told him not. This was his moment. He spoke again, his voice louder this time. "Stand." The dragon rose to its feet, spreading its massive wings wide. The force of the wind knocked back several alien guards. The fire in its throat dimmed. It stood like a shield in front of Ethan, protecting him from all harm. The queen's hands shook with fury. Her people looked at her with fear. For if she could not control her own weapon, then what power did she truly have? Her rule, her throne, her entire empire rested on fear. And now a human, a mere mechanic, had stolen that fear away with a single word. Ethan looked at the queen, his voice calm, though his body trembled. "I don't know why your dragon listens to me," he said, "but it seems it no longer belongs." To you, the arena roared with panic. Some aliens screamed for the queen to kill him at once. Others begged her to spare him, for they feared the dragon's wrath. The queen's mind raced. If she killed the human now, would the dragon turn against her if she spared him? Would her people begin to doubt her strength, her throne, her power, her pride? All balanced on the thin edge of this moment, Ethan reached out again, brushing his fingers against the dragon's scales. He felt a vibration, a pulse, almost like a heartbeat mixed with the hum of a machine. It was alive, but it was also engineered. He whispered to himself. This thing was built with human hands. The realization struck him like lightning. Long ago, humans must have been here. Forced to build weapons for the alien queen, this dragon was not truly hers. It was theirs, and now it had chosen him. The queen's eyes burned with hatred. Her voice broke the silence once more. "You dare steal from me," she spat. "You dare claim what is mine." Ethan said nothing. He only stood with the dragon, and the crowd saw clearly where the power truly lay. The impossible had happened. A human mechanic with no army, no sword, no crown, had given a command that even the alien queen could not. And the galaxy would remember this day, the day a dragon bowed to a man. The great arena of Zaylon still trembled from the shock. The dragon stood beside Ethan, wings half open, smoke drifting from its nose like silent fire. The queen sat frozen on her throne, her long claws digging into the golden armrests. Her eyes were wide, but her voice was sharp. "This cannot be," she whispered. "It is a trick, a lie." Her guards looked at each other nervously. They had seen many horrors in the queen's rule, but never had they seen her beast disobey. Fear spread among them like a dark wind. For if the dragon no longer belonged to the queen, then who truly ruled the arena? Ethan stood still, his hand resting against the dragon's scales. He felt the vibration of hidden machinery beneath the living flesh. Every second confirmed his suspicion. This creature was not only alive, it was engineered, designed, touched by human craft, and somehow he was the one it answered to. The queen rose slowly from her throne, her tall figure casting a shadow over her people. She forced a smile, though her lips shook with rage. "Very clever, human," she said, her voice cold. "You think you have power because of a single trick." Her words echoed through the arena. But her people did not cheer. Instead, they watched her with doubt in their eyes. For the human had done what even she could not. The queen waved her hand sharply. "Guards, seize him," she ordered. Dozens of armored soldiers rushed forward, their weapons glowing with alien light. Ethan's heart pounded. He had no way to fight such numbers, but before a blade could touch him, the dragon roared. The ground shook, flames burst from its mouth, and the guards were thrown back by the blast of heat. The soldiers fell to their knees, terrified. None dared to come closer. The queen's smile cracked. Her voice rose with fury. "You dare defy me," she screamed at the dragon. "Obey your queen." But the dragon only growled, its body lowering protectively in front of Ethan. Its eyes glowed brighter, and its wings spread wide like a shield. The message was clear to all. It would defend the human, not her. The whispers in the crowd grew louder. "Has the queen lost her power?" One voice muttered. "Perhaps the human is chosen by the ancients." Another said, "The queen heard them," and her heart filled with rage, for she knew that doubt was more dangerous than any blade if her people believed the human had power. Her throne would crumble. Ethan did not wish to fight. He raised his hands, trying to calm both the dragon and the crowd. "I don't want to be your enemy," he said firmly. "I don't even understand why this creature listens to me. But his words were drowned by the queen's roar. "Silence," she cried. "You are a thief of destiny, a worm who crawled." From the stars, her mind raced with suspicion. Perhaps the human was not ordinary. Perhaps he was a spy, a weapon sent by hidden enemies, or worse, perhaps the old legends were true. There were stories of a time when humans were builders of great machines, stories she had buried, for they gave hope to the weak, and now, seeing Ethan command her dragon, those forbidden tales felt real again. She could not allow this. She would not allow it. The queen stepped down from her throne, her long robes sweeping the floor like rivers of black fire. Her eyes glowed with fury as she spoke. "Human, you may control it now, but I will uncover your secret." Her voice shook with both anger and fear, for she could not understand how a mechanic, a man with nothing, could shatter her power in a single moment. Ethan studied her carefully. He saw the cracks in her pride, the doubt in her voice. This was not just anger. This was fear, and fear made her dangerous. He had survived by fixing broken machines, by noticing small details others ignored. And now, he saw clearly the queen was not invincible. She was afraid. The dragon growled again. As if sensing the queen's hostility, the torches flickered under the pressure of its breath. The people waited, silent, as if the next moment would decide the fate of their world. The queen turned to her court. "This human must be studied," she declared. "Bring him to the dungeons. Bind him in chains. I will discover the truth of this treachery." But none of her guards moved. Their eyes shifted nervously to the dragon. They knew that if they touched the human, the beast would tear them apart. Ethan took a slow breath, his mind racing. He could not remain here in the open forever. The queen would not rest until she destroyed him. But he also could not run, for the dragon followed him, and its massive body would never go unnoticed. His only chance was to understand why the dragon obeyed him, to uncover the secret hidden in its heart. The queen's suspicion grew sharper, like a blade ready to strike. She watched Ethan not as prey, but as a rival. Her empire had been built on fear, on the strength of her dragon. And now, that strength had slipped from her grasp into the hands of a human. She would not stop until she found a way to take it back. The arena stood still, filled with tension like a storm before it breaks. The mechanic and the queen faced each other, both knowing that the battle between them was only beginning. And the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. The night after the battle in the arena was heavy with silence. The alien city of Zalon did not sleep. Every corner whispered of the human who had bent the queen's dragon to his will. Some called him a sorcerer, others called him a thief, but many whispered a darker word: chosen. Ethan sat quietly in a dark chamber deep inside the palace. The queen had not killed him, not yet. Instead, she had ordered him locked inside, guarded by walls of stone and soldiers with sharp spears. But even from his prison, the dragon stayed close, its massive body curled outside like a shadow against the moonlight. Every roar from its throat made the guards tremble. No chain could hold it, and no soldier dared approach too near. Ethan's hands itched with restless curiosity. He was a mechanic, not a fighter, not a king. And though his life hung by a thread, his mind could not stop working. He kept thinking about what he had seen beneath the dragon's scales. The strange plates of metal, the wires, the pulse of hidden machinery that felt almost alive. He had seen engines, ships, and broken machines across a dozen worlds. But never had he seen living flesh and machine fused so perfectly late that night. The dragon lowered its head through the open window of his chamber. Its glowing eyes stared at him as if waiting. Ethan hesitated, then whispered, "Can you understand me?" The beast growled softly, the sound almost like an answer. He reached out his hand, brushing against the warm metal near its jaw. And again, he felt it. The hum. The vibration, the language of a machine hidden. Beneath living skin, his heart raced. He found a small crack between the scales. A faint line that only a mechanic's eye would notice. Carefully, he pressed against it. The scale shifted slightly, and behind it he glimpsed a panel, a piece of machinery sealed inside. The sight made his breath catch. This was no natural beast. This was a creation. Memory struck him. Fragments of old stories he had heard as a child. Stories of humans long ago who had been taken by alien masters, forced to build weapons, ships, machines of war. Most believed those were myths, lost to time, but now, touching the hidden circuits within the dragon, Ethan knew they were real. The Queen's greatest weapon was not born of her kind. It was built by his. The Queen entered the chamber at dawn, her robes trailing behind her like rivers of shadow. Her eyes burned with suspicion, but her smile was sharp. "You are clever." "Human," she said coldly, "but even clever tools break in time." She circled him like a predator, watching his every move. "You will tell me why my dragon listens to you, and how you trick it, or I will peel the truth from your bones," Ethan met her gaze, though his heart thudded with fear. "I didn't trick it," he said, his voice steady. "Your dragon is not truly yours. It was built with human hands." The Queen's face darkened, her eyes narrowing like knives. She hissed, "Lies." But Ethan saw the flicker of doubt. In her expression, she had never known where the beast truly came from, only that it was hers to command. And now, a human claimed its heart was tied to his people. Outside, the dragon growled, its claws scratching against stone as if it sensed the tension. The Queen's hands clenched, but she forced herself to stay calm. "If what you say is true," she whispered, "then you are more dangerous than I thought." Her voice was full of fear, though she tried to hide it with pride. That night, when the guards changed shifts, Ethan found another chance. The dragon pressed its head closer, its jaw opening slightly. Inside, he saw more gears, glowing threads of power, and old symbols scratched onto the metal, symbols that were not alien, but human. His breath caught as he traced one with his finger. It was a mark from Earth's old mechanic guilds, proof that his ancestors had been here. Building under chains, proof that the Queen's empire had stolen its strength from his people long ago. Ethan closed his eyes, the truth burning inside him. This was more than survival now. This was history. A hidden truth the Queen wanted buried. Her empire was built on stolen human hands, stolen human minds, stolen human creations. And now, fate had brought one mechanic to reclaim what was lost. The Queen, restless in her private chamber, could not sleep. Her thoughts twisted with suspicion. If the humans spoke true, then her power was not her own. Her dragon was a lie, and if the people discovered that truth, her throne would fall. She clenched her fists and whispered to herself, "This human must be broken, or he will break me." But outside, the dragon lowered itself like a guardian beside Ethan's chamber. Its glowing eyes unblinking. It was no longer the Queen's beast. It was his. The secrets in the dragon's heart had begun to awaken, and soon the galaxy would learn the truth. The throne room of Zaylon burned with unease. Rumors of the human spread faster than fire. Some aliens whispered that the Queen had lost her power. Others whispered that the human had been sent by the ancients to take it from her. And through it all, the dragon never left Ethan's side. Its glowing eyes followed him like a shadow, its wings folding and unfolding as if restless. The Queen sat on her throne, her nails tapping against the golden armrest. Her smile was thin, sharp, dangerous. She had waited long enough. Fear had begun to spread among her people, and she could not allow it to grow. If she did not act, her throne would crumble, so she planned a gamble, one so desperate, so ruthless, that it could either save her empire or destroy it. she stood and raised her hand, her voice cutting through the chamber. "Tonight," she declared, "we will end the lie." Her words echoed across the walls. The guards stiffened, and Ethan felt the weight of every alien eye turned to him. The Queen's smile deepened. "Bring him to the arena once more," she commanded. "Let all witness the truth." Ethan's stomach tightened. He knew this was not a trial, it was a trap. But with soldiers surrounding him and the dragon forced to follow, he had no choice. The massive arena filled with thousands of aliens, their voices rising like a storm. The Queen wanted them all to see what would happen next. She wanted to break the human before their eyes. The Queen raised her arms high, her crown flashing in the torchlight. "This human claims my beast," she cried. "He claims what is mine, and dares to shame me before my people." The crowd roared, some with anger, some with fear. The Queen's voice sharpened. "Tonight, we tear away the illusion and prove that the dragon is loyal to none but its queen." She turned to Ethan, her eyes glittering with hate. "You will command the dragon now," she hissed. "And I will command it too, before all, and we shall see who it obeys." The silence was sharp as a blade. Ethan swallowed hard, his mind racing. This was her gamble, to prove he was nothing. A pretender. If the dragon listened to her, he would die in shame. If it listened to him, she would unleash her fury before the entire empire. The Queen shouted first, her voice like thunder. "Dragon, kill him!" The beast let out a low growl. Smoke spilling from its jaws, the crowd leaned forward, expecting fire and blood, but the dragon did not strike. Its massive head turned, eyes locked on Ethan instead. It was waiting for him. Ethan took a slow breath. His hands trembled. But his voice was steady. "Stay," he commanded. The dragon lowered itself at once, wings folding, its fire dying in its throat. Gasps spread through the arena like lightning. The Queen's face twisted with rage. "No," she shouted. "You obey me, not him. Kill the human." But the dragon ignored her. It growled and placed itself between Ethan and the throne. The ground shook as it spread its wings, shielding him from all attack. The people of Zalan erupted in chaos. Some screamed in fear. Others shouted that the Queen had been dethroned by fate itself. The guards looked at each other in terror, their loyalty cracking like glass. The Queen's eyes burned with fury. She could not let this moment end her reign. If she could not control the dragon, she would destroy both it and the human. Her hand shot upward, and hidden cannons rose from the walls of the arena, giant weapons forged to kill armies. She had built them as a last defense, never needing them before. Now she aimed them at her own beast. "Fire!" she screamed. The night exploded. Bolts of burning plasma tore through the air, striking the ground around the dragon. Flames rose, stone shattered. The arena trembled. The dragon roared, a sound that shook the sky. Its body glowed. With fire, its eyes blazed brighter than suns. With one swipe of its claws, it smashed the nearest cannon into molten scraps. With a blast of its breath, it melted another into nothing but ash. The people screamed. Running in every direction, the Queen's desperate gamble had turned to chaos. Her soldiers tried to attack, but the dragon crushed them like insects beneath. Its wings, the fire it unleashed, lit the night sky, painting the city with terror. Ethan stood frozen at the center of it all. He had not asked for this, yet here it was. The dragon fought not only against the Queen's machines, but against her entire rule, and all because it had chosen him. A mechanic who had nothing, his voice cracked as he shouted above the chaos. "Stop, enough." The dragon froze, its chest still glowing with fire. It turned its head, lowering itself before him once more. The crowd fell silent. Their fear now mixed with awe. The Queen stared down from her throne. her crown dim under the firelight. Her gamble had failed. She had tried to prove the human a fraud, but instead she had revealed her own weakness. Her empire had seen it with their own eyes. The dragon no longer belonged to her, and in that moment, as smoke rose into the stars, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted. The city of Zalon burned with silence after the dragon's fury. Streets once filled with laughter and fear were now empty. The people hiding in their homes, smoke rose above the broken arena where the queen's cannons lay in ruins. Her desperate gamble had failed, and her greatest weapon had chosen another. But though the city shook with fear, the queen's hatred only grew sharper. Ethan sat inside a chamber hidden deep within the palace. The dragon rested outside, its body curled like a mountain, eyes glowing softly in the dark. No soldier dared to approach, no guard dared to strike. For all knew that one wrong move would bring the beast's wrath. Ethan's hands shook as he held a piece of metal torn from the dragon's armor. On its surface were faint markings, old engravings, not alien, but human. He studied them carefully. The symbols were the same ones he had seen in his youth, the same symbols used by the old mechanic guilds of Earth. He whispered to himself, "This was built by my people." The truth echoed in his mind like thunder. The queen's greatest pride, her deadliest weapon, was not hers at all. It was stolen. Forged by human hands long ago, driven by restless curiosity, Ethan searched the palace. The dragon followed quietly, its massive form hidden in shadows. He discovered a locked chamber guarded by old machines instead of soldiers, a library of records sealed away from the public eye inside. Dusty tablets and glowing crystals lined the walls. He touched one, and images flared to life. His breath caught as he saw humans not free, but chained, working under alien whips. They built ships, weapons, and beasts of war. Their eyes were hollow, their hands bloody. And among their creations was the first of the war dragons, the very creature that now obeyed him. Ethan's chest tightened. He was not just looking at history. He was looking at the suffering of his ancestors. The dragon was not simply a weapon. It was a memory, a monument to pain and survival. It existed because humans had been forced to build it, and now fate had brought one of their descendants back to claim it. The queen entered silently, her steps echoing against the stone. Her eyes glowed in the dim light, her smile sharp and dangerous. "So you found my secrets," she said coldly. Ethan turned, anger burning in his chest. "You enslaved my people," he said, his voice steady. "You forced them to build weapons for you. And you call this empire yours?" The queen's laughter was low. "Cruel, your people were weak," she replied. "They served their purpose, and their creations gave me the galaxy." Ethan clenched his fists. "You built your throne on stolen hands." "On stolen blood," he said. The queen stepped closer, her smile fading. "And now you think you can change that with one beast?" She whispered, her voice trembled slightly. For though she hid it well, she knew the truth was a blade. If her people ever learned what she had hidden, their loyalty would shatter. Ethan turned back to the glowing records. He saw one final image, a design plan written in human script, showing the dragon's inner systems, a system only a mechanic could understand. It was clear now why the beast had listened to him. It was not magic, not fate alone. It was recognition. The machine inside the dragon answered to the hands of its makers. And Ethan carried their legacy in his blood. He whispered softly, "It was never yours to command." The queen's eyes blazed with fury. "You know too much," she hissed. "You think the truth will save you, but the truth can be buried." Her voice lowered into a deadly whisper. "And tomorrow, so will you." The dragon growled outside the chamber, as if sensing her intent. Its massive shadow filled the windows, flames curling from its jaws. The queen backed away slowly, but her smile returned. "You may hold the beast, human, but power is more than fire and wings," she said. "I have ruled for centuries because I know how to shape fear, and soon I will shape yours." With that, she vanished into the darkness, her robes trailing like smoke. Ethan stood alone among the records, his heart heavy with the truth. He understood now that this was not just about survival, it was about justice. The dragon was not a gift of the queen, but a legacy of his people, a stolen legacy waiting to be reclaimed. He placed his hand on the dragon's scales, it's glowing. Eyes turned toward him. "Together," he whispered, "we will finish what they started." And though the night outside was filled with silence, Ethan felt the weight of destiny pressing on him. The hidden truth was now his weapon, and soon the galaxy would know it too. The Queen's empire was trembling. The whispers of the hidden truth spread like fire through the streets. The people had seen her dragon bow to a human. They had seen her cannons fail. And now they began to doubt her rule. Doubt was poison to a throne built on fear, but the Queen was not ready to surrender. Her heart burned with rage, and her mind twisted with one last plan. If she could not control the dragon, she would drown it and the human in blood. She called her armies tens of thousands of soldiers, armored beasts, and war machines forged over centuries. She ordered them to gather in the arena, the very heart of her empire. There, before all eyes, she would prove that no human mechanic could ever challenge a queen. Ethan was dragged into the arena, but this time he did not walk alone. The dragon followed, its massive wings blocking the stars above. The people filled the stands, their voices rising like thunder. Some cried for Ethan's death, others whispered prayers in secret. No one knew how this night would end. The Queen rose high on her throne, her voice echoing through the arena. "This human is a liar, a thief of destiny," she declared. "Tonight we will see his weakness. Tonight he faces my entire army, and his dragon will be crushed under the weight of my empire." The crowd roared, yet the sound carried fear as much as fury. The gates opened and the army poured in, rows upon rows of soldiers, their armor glowing in the firelight. War beasts howled, machines rumbled forward, weapons aimed at Ethan and the dragon. The ground trembled under the sheer number of enemies. Ethan's heart pounded. He was no soldier, no commander, only a mechanic with trembling hands and one impossible ally. The Queen raised her hand, her voice sharp as lightning. "Destroy them both." She commanded. The army charged. The dragon roared, the sound shaking the arena walls. Flames burst from its jaws, sweeping across the first line of soldiers. Metal melted, beasts fell screaming. Machines shattered. The battle had begun, but there were too many. For every soldier the dragon crushed, 10 more took its place. Plasma bolts cut through the air, striking its wings, claws, and chest. The dragon staggered, roaring in pain. Ethan's heart twisted. He could not let it fight. Alone, he ran forward. Climbing onto the beast's back, the heat of its scales burned against him. But he held on. "Listen to me," he shouted. "We cannot win by killing them all. We must fight a different way." The dragon turned its head slightly, its glowing eyes locking onto his. It understood. Ethan raised his hand high, his voice louder than the chaos. "Protect," he commanded. "Do not destroy, protect," the dragon roared. But this time, the fire in its chest dimmed. Instead of unleashing flames, it swung its wings wide, creating a shield of steel and scale. Soldiers' weapons bounced harmlessly off. When machines charged, it did not tear them apart. It shoved them back, pinning them harmlessly to the ground. When beasts lunged, it roared so loud they fled in terror. The crowd gasped. Never had they seen the dragon fight without slaughter. Never had they seen power used, not for fear, but for protection. Ethan shouted again, his voice echoing across. "The arena, this is not your queen's dragon. This was built by my people, stolen by her empire. Used to enslave, to kill, to burn." His words struck like fire through the crowd. "But it was never meant for destruction alone," he continued. "It was meant to defend, to protect, to be more than a weapon." The soldiers hesitated, their lines faltering. Some lowered their weapons, staring in awe at the human who commanded the beast with compassion, not fear. The queen's eyes blazed with panic. She screamed, "Lies! He deceives you all." But the people no longer cheered. They only watched, their doubt rising higher with every breath. The queen, desperate, raised her hand and called forth her final weapon, a massive war machine taller than the arena walls. Forged with the same stolen technology that had built the dragon, it roared to life, its chest glowing with deadly fire. She pointed at Ethan, her voice breaking with madness. "Kill him!" The machine fired, a blast of searing plasma racing toward Ethan. The dragon moved in an instant, shielding him with its massive body. The blast struck its chest, flames and smoke exploding outward. The dragon staggered, its body trembling. Ethan screamed. His hands pressed against its scales. "Stay with me, don't fall now," the beast growled, rising again, fire burning in its throat. But Ethan shook his head. "No, not fire," he whispered. "Show them what you truly are." The dragon roared one last time, spreading its wings wide, but instead of fire, a pulse of light burst from its body. A shockwave of energy rolled across the arena. Weapons shattered, machines fell silent. Soldiers dropped their arms in shock. The war machine cracked, its stolen power burning out. The queen screamed, her voice drowned by the roar of the dragon's light. When the smoke cleared, the arena stood silent. The queen's army lay broken, not in death, but in defeat. The dragon lowered its wings, shielding Ethan like a guardian, and the people saw clearly. Their queen had built her throne on stolen blood, but the human mechanic had turned her greatest. Weapon into a shield, the queen fell to her knees, her crown slipping from her head. Her eyes were wide with fear as she stared at Ethan. He did not speak with hatred, only with truth. "Your reign is over," he said softly. "The galaxy will no longer bow to fear." The crowd erupted, not with cheers of war, but with voices crying for freedom. The queen's power was broken, and the human mechanic stood where no one thought he ever could, beside a dragon, chosen by fate, guided by compassion, not as a conqueror, but as a protector. And as Ethan looked to the stars above, he knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning of humanity's rise.